Talk about brutal. Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts just pummeled a Trump-supporting news anchor on CNBC. Warren lashed out at Sara, Eisen, who tried to defend Trump taking away Harvard University research grants.
You know what? Instead of just mouthing off about what you think is happening, actually present some evidence. And let's look at the evidence. Let's let the other side come in and question that evidence. But you don't just get to lip off and say, and therefore the king gets to wave his magic wand and say, off with your head.
Doesn't the government determine where federal tax dollars go? And so they're allowed to decide.
Do you think they have a big bushel basket of money and they just say, you, good looking, you will have money. You, not so good looking, you're going to have to go hungry for a while. That's not how it works. Let's just do Con Law 101, and that is Congress writes those laws and allocates that money. The administration's job is to enforce those laws and spend that money the way the law tells them. And if they fail to do that, Part 3 is the courts are the ones who step in and enforce the law.
Warren sounded like a third-grade teacher trying to simplify things for an underachieving student. And Eisen had it coming to her. Earlier during the interview, Eisen belittled Warren's efforts to assert congressional authority over tariffs. Eisen claimed, inaccurately, that Congress doesn't have that power, prompting Warren to rip her apart.
It ultimately doesn't matter.
What do you mean it ultimately doesn't matter? This is the law. I'm
because
still
it didn't
kind of
change
Constitution
his policy.
101.
No, but he has the authority, ultimately.
Well, no, he does not. That's the whole point. He does not have the authority if Congress does not let him keep this authority. We can take this away.
And to try and take it away, Warren is seeking a Senate vote. Warren, who is the top-ranking Democrat on the Senate Banking Committee, has called Trump's tariffs corrupt. She points out that Trump initially said there would be no tariff exceptions. Then, after Trump spoke with Apple CEO Tim Cook and made what Trump described as a great deal, the Trump administration exempted iPhones from the import taxes.
All of a sudden, great deal available for Tim Cook. Tim Cook, who, by the way, put $1 million.
It's a great deal available for Americans who have to buy iPhones.
No, it is a great deal for one company. But how many of the competitors now get hurt? In fact, I'd like to know what else goes on in this deal. Is it that Tim Cook and his interests get protection, but any of his competitors, I don't know, do they get a higher interest rate? What happens to them? The problem we've got here, and the thing is, Donald Trump actually has a history on this, as we point out in the letter.
Just has a good relationship with the president there.
When he is negotiating a tariff deal, he negotiates on the behalf of everybody in the United States. And to pick, you get a special deal, you get smacked in the face, it has two consequences. One is that's just terrible. That's not how competition is supposed to work. But the second and the more pernicious here, it's like putting poison in the water. It means nobody can trust the system. There's no independence in the system. There's no fairness in the system. It's all whose palm did you grease, who did you suck up to in order to be treated better.
One person who is definitely not sucking up to Donald Trump these days is Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Powell has been blunt in connecting the weakening economy to the Trump tariffs.
The level of tariff increases announced so far is significantly larger than anticipated, and the same is likely to be true of the economic effects, which will include higher inflation and slower growth.
As a result, Powell has dismissed Donald Trump's request to lower interest rates.
We are well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance.
So Donald Trump is threatening to fire Powell.
He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me. Yeah.
The law prevents the president from firing or replacing the Fed chair. And Jerome Powell has said he is not going to resign even if Donald Trump demands he leave. Now, back to Elizabeth Warren. The senator herself has criticized Powell through the years. But she says disagreeing with the Fed chair is one thing, threatening his job or firing him is something else, something illegal. And Warren says that such a move would tank the already battered U.S. stock markets.
If Chairman Powell can be fired by the President of the United States. It will crash the markets in the United States. The infrastructure that keeps this stock market strong, and therefore a big part of our economy strong, and therefore a big part of the world economy strong, is the idea that the big pieces move independent of the politics.
But I know you are not the president, but you have also been very vocal in terms of wanting Fed Chair Powell to cut interest rates.
Sure.
Especially when he was raising it. And you and I have talked about, like, maybe you shouldn't inject your politics into the Fed. That's essentially all he's doing here.
Oh, that's the question. When he talks about terminating Powell, come on.
No, he said his termination cannot come soon enough. His term ends next year.
You think he was saying term in? Look, I hope he was saying term in. I think what he's doing is testing the waters. Does he think he can get away with firing Powell, and all of you won't raise any hell about that? He's checking that out, and I'm just saying, for the strength of our country, I hope all of you are pushing back at this.
Sara Eisen continued to push back at Senator Warren. Eisen is reportedly viewed by the Trump White House as one of their most reliable advocates on CNBC, and she often seems to match the ignorance the Trump team has about the Constitution and the checks and balances of our government. Now, to be clear, I do think that all guests on CNBC and elsewhere should face skeptical and adversarial questions. Tough questions should punctuate every interview, whether the guest is a Republican, Democrat, or whatever. But those adversarial exchanges should be grounded in reality, not Trump talking points or misinformation. Senator Warren and other Democrats recently asked the Trump administration for some transparency on the tariffs, including a record of who is asking for special exemptions, whether the requests are going to the president, the Secretary of the Treasury, or the trade rep. So far, the Trump White House has not given any of the information requested, which makes you wonder if some of these requests and special deals are above board, or whether they amount to shakedowns and bribes. As Warren noted, until now, America has been based on the rule of law as articulated by the Constitution.
And whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, that's what serves all of us. And that's what keeps us all strong. That's what gives us a chance to build prosperity. You take that away, and it may work great for a handful of billionaires, but for everybody else in this country, for every kid who needs that public school, for every senior who needs that Social Security check, for every veteran who counts on the promise that was made to him or her, you take that away, and our country is not just a little bit poorer. Our country fundamentally breaks apart.
In these challenging times of Trump, there are several Democrats who have been stepping up in forceful and compelling fashion. Add Senator Elizabeth Warren to the list. She understands markets, trade, and the financial system as well as anybody. Warren's urgency in speaking out against Trump is noteworthy, and her willingness to blast Trump sycophants to their face on live television is inspiring. By the way, House Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene appears to be melting down as the insider trading allegations against Greene pile up.
The American people.
The gentlelady's time has expired. Miss Stansberry. Miss Stansberry, the gentlelady's time has expired. No, you're lying to the American people.
Earlier, from her usual seat, Greene melted down and interrupted Democrat Robert Garcia while he was criticizing Robert Kennedy Jr.
He caused a measles outbreak in another country that caused the death. Absolutely. That caused.
No, he did not.
He absolutely did.
That's a lie.
That is proven.
RFK did not cause a measles outbreak.
Miss Greene,
you sound ignorant.
Greene, you are an
that's
anti-vax.
Ignorant,
you're
and that's
an
a lie.
Anti-vax conspiracy
no, I'm
theorist
for
yourself.
choice. I'm
you're
for
the
parents
number one
and people choosing.
conspiracy theorist.
Given what the government's been doing and this administration's been doing, it would not shock me, and I hate to speculate, if we were to find out that a whole bunch of people who work in Washington as our elected leaders, one way or the other, ultimately sold stocks last week, or potentially worse than that, shorted the market.
The headlines include Marjorie Taylor Greene's suspicious stock trade soars 29% despite tariffs, and Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene's 17 stock buys in the market crash turned to profits after Trump's tariff pause.
I've heard murmurings on the floor that there may have been people that knew that this was coming, and I'm very interested in seeing some of the stock disclosures that come out.
Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from Gigi, who wrote, "Lock her up. I'm in Georgia, and we need a normal person to represent us, not this conspiracy theorist, grifter, and fraud." I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about Senator Elizabeth Warren shredding a Trump MAGA cheerleader on CNBC. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.